James back here again with two quick videos today, maybe two because I got some errands to run today and I want to make it outside in time to go skate. But today we're going to be going over, we're going to be talking about HOTEPs and Black Hebrew Israelites. And the priming to this will be I want everybody to keep in mind Black Hebrew Israelites and Black, HOTEPs are not leftists or social revolutionaries in any way, shape, or form. These people are fascist, if anything else best describes their ultra-nationalistic views, their pro-segregationist, the anti-interracial interaction, and, the homophobia and sexism that we will see in a second. And I think the most important thing everybody got to keep in mind is, whether it's on the economic level of how, like, capitalism is rigged up and white supremacy is rigged up, and on a social level that more than just African Americans are the victims of fascism, and make sure my camera is pointing at me, excuse me, are the victims of fascism, white supremacy, and, how capitalism is strung up and whatnot. Because, women have to deal with traditional gender roles and stuff from the right. And, gay people have to deal with basically being shuttered and, forced to be in a closet for not be who they are. And that's queer people in general, including trans people, have the same enemies as a lot of African American people. And I feel like that is the most important thing that, I can kind of really bring to this conversation, because these people are very conspiratorially driven and they care about the race over everything else. Don't get me wrong, the race should matter, but at the end of the day, it should be more to your political prepositions than preservation of a race. Even if it's black people. And, these people mirror exactly the same talking points as white supremacists and neo-Nazis say, as we will soon see in this video, where they be like are we allowed to date interracially? No. Should we try to help gay people get liberated? No. What about the fight for women's rights and the way they're treated? No. And in fact, these people go on these weird ass conspiratorial tangents where feminism was never meant for black women and stuff like that, which is completely fucking stupid, because black women face oppression at that intersection of being not only African American, or African, or anywhere that because you can be black a lot of places like in Haiti, but also facing the rampant sexism that women have to face a lot of times in society and stuff, whether we're talking about the wages not being same, hiring practices, the being the victim of violence and whatnot. So we're just going to dig into this video, but remember that these people are basically fascist, and the only difference between them and the actual white supremacists is that white supremacists have some pull in our political sphere in the real world, but these guys don't.
Who's my number four? Queen.
I'm actually gonna pass it to my sister after we should.
Okay, so y'all said
like that. Like, that's the one thing, and I guess maybe that's like synonymous with black culture, oddly enough. That's one thing I really dislike, is this way we call each other king and queen and shit like that. I kind of feel like we are all just human beings and stuff like that. I understand brother and sister, but king, queen, and all this other shit really needs to stop, because I guess that comes from the conspiracy theory that black people were like Egyptians and stuff like that, which is a completely different part of Africa. Don't get me wrong, Egyptians are African, but they were not black African like West African and whatnot in Ghana, where most of the slave trade was happening.
yeah, I'm like,
No.
go ahead.
All right, Dr. Umar, my name is Diane, resident here in Kansas City, and I am one of those ugly black feminists that you are not a fan of.
Feminists are usually fine as hell. I don't know where they getting this stereotype from, and maybe I'm chomping at the bit, but especially as of lately, I've been going to like a lot of punk shows, and I've been going to protests and stuff like that. Feminists are always gorgeous women. I don't know where right wingers, whether these fascist dipshits get it from, or the more white supremacists, like white people, say, oh, feminists are just ugly fat women that can't get men, when they're usually like, some of them, are they come in different shapes and sizes, don't get me wrong, but they all usually look good. But maybe I'm just crazy because I like alternative girls.
I appreciate you coming here to Kansas City, and I figure if I'm going to have something to say, I'm going to say it to your face, so I do appreciate it. I do appreciate you addressing my concerns regarding anti-LGBT rhetoric and anti-feminist rhetoric, so I appreciate you saying that up front. So, my question is, the exact definition of hate speech is speech that offends, threatens, insults groups based on race, color, religion, natural origin, sexual orientation, disability, or other traits. That is the definition of hate speech. We can say all day long that we don't hate a particular type of person, but I want to know, how is that rhetoric any different than white folks that say that black people are thugs, are mentally not together, that we are unintelligent? How is it
And
possible?
it was created by the same people, whether we talking Christian nationalists or white supremacists, that create these stereotypes that and that's why I said, like, that's why African Americans, I be trying to warn a lot of us, you know, when I'm at work, or you know, if I'm just talking to people about politics, is that you have the exact same enemies as feminists. You have the same enemies as queer people. The same people that's trying to take their rights away are the same people trying to take our rights away. For instance, later on, we're going to be talking about Tucker Carlson. I'm going to try to do 2 videos today, but he's the same motherfuckers that say that, you know, feminists are destroying Western world. And then when a black person gets killed by the police, these are the same people that's jumping up, clapping their hands and shit. So you got to keep that in mind, that a lot of these people spreading one sentiment are spreading another. So you can't, I'm not going to say that you can't be, because a lot of people are stuck in this mindset. Like Dave Chappelle's stupid ass, for instance. But you got to keep in mind, the same people who are passing bills and shit like that, that's trying to keep trans people out of sports, are the same people that want laws against filming the police officers, that think cops shouldn't go to jail for killing people.
How is that not different as a black man saying that black feminists are ugly, saying that queer people are, you said it earlier, I can see you on tape. How is that different than saying that gay people are molested, that we are pedophiles? How is that any different than white people?
This is the classic white supremacist smear of LGBT people, because, you know, the thing about it is that queer people are more likely to be the victims of sexual assault and harassment by a straight man more than they are to actually be the assaulters or harassers.
He has said that online, and I have the video.
This goofy ass look on his face.
You have.
I guess he got confronted and he don't know how to handle it and stuff like that. This woman is being really nice to him, because she should be up here calling him all type of bitch ass niggas and idiots and morons, and just disrespecting the fuck out of this guy, because he's a fucking idiot who is leading a lot of probably well-intentioned people to bad political conclusions.
You did say that online.
I was accused and derided, as some of you guys know, because of my position on sexual confusion in the African American community. And I understand we may have a few visitors tonight, and I don't mind.
Some people are just gay, or bisexual, or lesbian, or wasn't born with the gender, they wasn't comfortable with the gender that they were assigned at birth. It's really that simple. And what makes that confusion worse, if we want to call it that, especially particularly talking about trans people, is not giving them treatment and actual help and accepting them into society as just like normal human beings. That they are.
Okay, of that community. And so I think it's important that I clarify my perspective on black homosexuality and lesbianism, so that we're all crystal clear on
Such thing as it just being for one race or another.
Where I stand. Yes, it is true, I do not support it. Yes, it is true, I do not condone it. But it is
because you're a fucking you're a conspiratorial idiot who has these weird prepositions about how somebody being gay or lesbian is weaker than somebody being you know, straight, or how we gotta keep forcing the white capitalist family home down black people's throats when it's clearly not working for anybody, including white people.
absolutely false if anyone says that Dr. Umar Johnson hates any of our brothers and sisters who practice a traditional lifestyle.
Okay.
A non-traditional form of marriage.
So what the fuck are you doing then? Like, and stuff like that. Like, you know, like when you go on, well, I'm gonna let the video keep going.
Right, so my question is, how is this anti-woman, anti-gay rhetoric any different than white folks who say that black people are dumb, that we're thugs? Homophobia is hate speech, and anti-womanism is hate speech.
I think the better argument is the one that I always give people, is that the same people that's trying to pass policies to limit the rights of queer people are the same people that would pass laws to limit the rights and financial freedom of black people. But I understand what she's saying is that, yeah, like saying that, calling somebody the N-word with the hard R, or saying that black people are thugs and criminals, is kind of exactly the same as saying like queer people are pedophiles and whatnot. Like, but considering what I said earlier about queer people are more likely to be the victims of sexual assault, so this makes this conspiracy theory a conspiracy theory.
May I respond?
You can.
All right. Now, first we got to take the emotionalism out of it. We're going to be able to dialogue. Okay?
Oh, get the fuck out of here, bro. Everything you say is everything you say, bro, is feelings based and bitch made. None of your arguments actually have any facts backed up behind them. And then when we look at the facts about LGBT people and being more likely to be the perpetrators of or the victims of sexual assault, the evidence in real life, here in reality, pans out a different fucking way.
I'm going to respond, but for the sake of time, I'm going to answer everybody's question. And if you like, when I'm done, then you can have a private, respectful conversation.
Because I feel like, because that's what allows bitches like him to get away with this shit. You gotta talk about that crossover of of enemies. Like Nazis don't just hate African Americans, for instance, or the Ku Klux Klan don't just hate African Americans. They also don't like, it doesn't matter what race you are, they don't like gay people. They don't believe in women having, rights and stuff like that. They don't believe in breaking up the traditional marriages and stuff like that. You got to keep that in mind, that black people are fighting the same enemies as queer people and women at the end of the day. At least ones that are on the side of trying to make things a little bit better. But I guess being a minority makes you beg the question of why the things are the way that they are. Some people go to his conclusions. Some people come to like mine or her conclusions.
Now, okay, well, this one I'm going to go through, then we can come back to it if we want to have that conversation. Number one, and because I got ADHD, I didn't remember everything, but I think I can get to most of the highlights of what you said. First, you said homophobia.
Here we go, bro. Come on.
Oh, you're going to tell me that's a mental illness from an outdated DSM-3 that was abolished in 1973? Don't try it.
That's like this is not the
DSM-5.
It's not a mental illness. It's just the way some people are. And some people are just holding on to this old, hateful stereotype against innocent people that don't affect their life in any way. And who they should be on the side of because they have the same enemies. Well,
Oh, we're mentally ill. Go ahead.
This is real terrible fucking and a complete smear. I just want to hear you answer the question. Answer the question, bitch.
And I'm going to be respectful to you, okay? I didn't pick this up to talk about the fact that homosexuality was a mental illness in this book until 1974. But since you brought it up, I'll start with that. If you read the American Psychiatric Association position paper on the removal of homosexuality from this book as a mental illness, and I have it, it's available online, it clearly says that we did not change this classification because we had sufficient evidence to prove that people were born this way.
Yes, they did.
So one of the questions that got to be dealt with from the Eurocentric mental health
This is just like when somebody just because she got on his ass with some actual facts and reality, and at this point he's just lying and posturing in front of his audience.
That we're dealing with this issue in, why was it removed? Now, having said that, I picked up
because it was evidence that being gay is just a naturally occurring phenomenon and is not something that we should be classifying as a mental illness. Like, it's really that simple.
The book to ask you on what page is the mental illness homophobia.
It's not a mental illness. It's a disease, just like racism a disease.
Who defined homophobia as a disease? This is the authority
We supposed to, man, what the hell is he talking about?
of mental illness. Where is the diagnosis homophobia?
It's not a diagnosis.
It's not a diagnosis, dumbass. It's something you get called for saying bad shit about queer people for no reason.
It's a state of being. It's a state of being.
It's a state of mind. It's a state of mind. Just like being racist. So you're saying you can be racist but not homophobic?
It's
A phobia. A phobia is in this book.
Okay, so he's
And a
teaching against gay
phobia,
people.
let me.
Okay.
This stupid son of a
Phobia
bitch.
is fear. Simple phobia, any type of claustrophobia, it's a fear. You said homophobia.
You stupid son of a bitch. Just because in one way we use a word doesn't mean that it applies the same way all the fucking time. There's many words and, you know, stuff like that where it, you know, it says one thing, but it turns out it means something else.
I'm not afraid
That's
of
just how words
nobody.
work. Nobody said you were scared of gay people. That's not what homophobia means. You're just being like a pedantic bitch right now. You don't really seem like that strong of a man to me.
I've been asked by homosexuals and lesbians to have conversations with them on their radio shows. I normally accept the invitation
Because
for
you
respectful.
go on there and make a fool out of yourself like you're doing right now. How you're trying to say that when somebody says somebody is like hot or like homophobia, it means that they're scared of somebody. You sound stupid as hell.
Dialogue. I don't run from the opportunity if it's going to be respectful. Now, I stand by.
Somebody respects somebody, or you know, they should be fair and let you talk. I give them that. But nobody should respect you and just let you spread your conspiracy theory nonsense. Nobody should be respectful to you when you are spreading sentiment where people will be stripped of their rights to be the way that they are.
By my position as a psychologist, as an educator, as a therapist for normally 20 years, and in 95% of the cases of gay and lesbians I personally know and met and worked with, most of them were victims of sexual abuse as children. I'm speaking not what some white person wrote in.
No, this is an anecdotal bullshit right here. There's plenty of people that grow up that haven't been no victims of sexual assault or harassment and they turn out to be queer in one way or another. This is a complete anecdotal bullshit, and in fact, it might not even be an anecdote. He could just literally just be making this shit up to justify his homophobia.
Some research study. I'm telling you what I know. Amongst black
experience, bro. Come up with some data.
folk, it is a pathology born of childhood sexual victimization. Denial is at the root of all mental illness. It's easy to say I was born like this, so I don't have to deal with the
fucking word born like that, man. What is wrong with you?
pain that triggered it. Now,
what triggers it? Sexuality exists on a spectrum. Some people like the same sex, somebody like opposite sex. Some people like both. That's one of the most ridiculous conspiratorial, like anecdotal bullshit arguments I ever heard in my life, dog. You make no sense. And it amazes me that so many people start clapping over this dumb shit.
I never said that.
This type of thinking leads to the persecution of and abuse of innocent people who are just trying to be themselves.
Because you are gay, you want to prey on children sexually. Now,
that's literally what you motherfuckers and Nazis be going around saying. And the Black Hebrew Israelites.
Do you have a strong case of homosexuals and lesbians who prey on children? Look at the...
You know, usually I don't do this, but people more likely 4 times. I knew like it was more likely, but I didn't know it was this bad. Like that really like emotionally just kind of moved me right now. God, I didn't know it was that bad. Like I really didn't. I just knew that it was worse, but I didn't know it was 4 times more likely. It really puts in perspective like this conspiracy theory that he's dunking out his fucking mouth right now.
The Roman Catholic Church. We don't have to debate whether or not folks who are sexually confused
Because you're lying and completely full of shit, man. That's why.
They also prefer children. But am I going to
What are you talking about?
indict the whole population
This
and
is
say
a classic like Nazi smear, Klansman smear of gay people that's been going on for like the past 100 years. The thing about people like this, they don't know that the like negative shit about black people, the negative shit about gay people and women are coming from the same thinkers.
because you gay, you want to molest children? I've never said that. I've never said that, and I never will say that. I'm very responsible with my words. Now, you drew a comparison that I wouldn't disagree with. You said, how was me disagreeing with homosexuality? How did it be different?
Disagreeing with it, dude. If you had like any political power, you would have these people stripped of their rights.
The white man saying black folks was dumb and stupid and this and that. You know what the difference is? No, that was lies about us. That could be proven.
What are you talking about? It's the same people spreading the same lies, and it's disproven by academia. It's studies that show African Americans are as cognitive as white people, and it's proof that show that gay people pose no harm to society.
You're wrong. I don't denigrate or downgrade black gays and lesbians. Why would I do that?
In his whole speech right now.
Do you realize black gay men have one of the highest suicide rates in America?
Because of people like you, bitch.
Speech like what you
No.
It's literally
what you
on the
say
money. On the money.
Being emotional, my queen.
What about before he was even?
It's on the money because of bitch ass niggas like you go around saying gay people are pedophiles or gay people are hurting the black community. People that are gay and lesbian and shit. You know, I'm a former homophobe. I'm not afraid to admit that about from when I was like up to about 17 years old, I was really homophobic because I didn't have an experience in the world with different kinds of people. But as I got out of high school, I started, skateboarding and going to like different shows and protests, and I actually, started, well, especially just like generally just, experiencing, interacting with different kinds of people. You start to see that gay people are just regular fucking people, and they're not these people that are doing some nebulous bullshit trying to take over the world, but it's people like you that keep that stereotype going, and with that stereotype going, you cause gay people to like really feel, suicidal, man, and it's really fucked up because they should be able to get on buses and trains and, go get dinner together and hold hands without motherfuckers calling them the F word when they walk past and shit.
Born. What about before he was even born?
Or attacking them.
Well, okay, what about 100 years ago, 200 years ago?
What about it?
There's no argument.
I'm asking you. But you said him.
Exactly.
So what about what was going on before he was born?
He inherited it, and he decided to continue to
How?
And he's continuing to fucking hate. That's how white supremacy works. That's how this black fascism shit works, is that these stereotypes don't die is because people refuse to unlearn them and take in new information, even if they are presented with new information. They keep the conspiracy theory going for them. Reasons like making money, or they're selling fake ass like oils and shit like that. Or it's mostly just making money while people do and say this shit. Some people might be actually indoctrinated to believe this stuff. A small story is that one day I was out skating, and I see these black Hebrew Israelite dumbasses when I'm downtown all the time. And I got, because I usually just ignore them, and I keep walking. I don't speak to these guys because I know they are dumbasses. But one day I kind of just got not really upset, I was mad, but I just was like, you know what, man, I'm not gonna keep letting these guys keep talking to me. I'm gonna go, I'm gonna go back and forth with them today because I'm it's not that I was in a bad mood, it's that I was in a good mood, but they keep calling me, talking about, hey, my brother, and all this other shit. And I confronted these guys, and as I was talking to them about, you know, different issues and providing actual left-wing analysis to the problems in the world, I feel like one of the guys, I was kind of getting to him because he was the youngest guy, and he was like, oh yeah, it works like that, really? And you could tell by the look on his face that he was only going with the things that they were saying because he was indoctrinated to believe these things. And the people around him, the older ones, he was no older than probably about 19, but the ones that was in their 20s and the ones in their 30s don't want to unlearn this nonsense. And they keep the stereotypes going, even if it's real scientific data, studies by colleges and universities, or by the, you know, the U.S. government. They refuse to take in new information about the facts of how, you know, queer people and women are treated in society unfairly, and even worse so, they refuse to acknowledge that there's an intersection of enemies, you know, between the people that, you know, queer people have to face up against and the people that African Americans, Latino people, and Jewish people have to face up against.
My queen, stay with me.
It is again, bro. I hate that shit so fucking much. I mean, if it's like your wife or something like that, I think that's pretty cool, but bro, there's no kings and queens. This monarchist bullshit, man.
Political fact for anyone with common sense. It is a political fact for anyone with common sense. Dr. King was assassinated in 1968. Black Panther
Biking with garbage trucks workers by a white man.
Party was destabilized in 1972. Homosexuality became normal.
What the fuck is he talking about? Martin Luther King, Fred Hampton, and all the rest of these people were pro fucking gay. And he was a fucking he was a, what was he, like a reverend? And he was pro gay. What is he talking about?
1974. It is a political fact that homosexuality was deep.
All these protests and marches started at the same time, and they were all led by Martin Luther King. Apparently, he never saw our friend Martin.
Classified as an illness, so it could be used to take over the black civil rights struggle.
I fucking hate this conspiracy theory, man. This is one of the dumbest fucking conspiracy theories that I hear among, you know, black people that believe some of this dumb shit right here, dude. There is no... First of all, don't get me wrong. The movements were separate, but together. They happen at the same time, but they happen separately. And then you got to keep in mind, it's a lot of gay, trans, lesbian black people and shit, too. So what about them? What if they just fought together because they noticed they had the same enemies as these traditionalist motherfuckers like you? These fascists who want to keep society divided for no good fucking reason.
LBGT is what they call the new black.
It happened at the same time. There's no such thing as gay people trying to discredit the struggle of African Americans and shit like that. These movements happen together. These movements have the same enemies. So what the fuck would the point be? A lot of gay people support, you know, I'm sure in the past they supported people like Martin Luther King and Fred Hampton and the Black Panther Party and whatever else they had going on, like the White Patriots. And today, a lot of gay people are BLM supporters. So this complete, like, conspiratorial nonsense you're regurgitating out of your fucking mouth makes no sense. Because it's the thing I keep seeing over and over again, that if you look socially and economically, a lot of gay people and African Americans have the exact same enemies. So what utility would it be into discrediting the movements that is to liberate African Americans?
It's not black, but they're using it to ignore the black agenda in deference of the LBGT agenda. It is the only minority.
The same agenda, bitch. Is the fucking abolish white supremacy and abolish capitalism. There is no separate agendas.
Issue that matters in this country.
There's no gay agenda except to be treated like humans and stop motherfuckers like you from spreading conspiracy theories about them being pedophiles.
Now let me ask you a question, my queen. Since we're talking about freedom of speech and people's rights and looking out for those who...
You know that at the end of the day, when the only thing you have to say for yourself is that it's my freedom to say it, that you really need to go, like, sit in the corner and think about the arguments that you're making.
are being oppressed and denied their opportunity, where the hell was the LBGT movement when Michael Brown was murdered?
Right there, protesting with him.
Where the hell?
Protesting right with him. These people are so fucking misinformed and stupid, bro. If you this stupid beer belly bitch never went to a protest before. Every Black Lives Matter protest I went to had a strong contingent of gay and trans people there, and I'm sure some of the women there were like lesbian and bisexual too. So I don't know what the fuck he's talking about. And the anti-fascists that support them, I'm definitely sure have a lot of, trans and gay people and shit like that in it, because they are aware that they share a common enemy with African Americans.
Y'all don't speak out against what goes on with black folks.
No, he's fucking in it. He's a fucking idiot, bro, who knows like nothing about politics, who just postures and spread conspiracy theories. And it's amazing that so many black people get indoctrinated by this shit.
I'm the first
They're
one.
just talking like, woo, like what the fuck? Have you looked at a protest? You go to a protest, a daytime one. You don't have to go to a nighttime one where it's dangerous and it might be a curfew. If you look anytime throughout the 2020 protests, you would see gay pride flags, because a lot of gay people know that they have a common enemy against the police state and white supremacy. A lot of gay people move to black neighborhoods because they get treated better here than they do in the white ones. So this nonsense he's spouting out of his mouth makes no sense to me. A person that actually have been to a good handful of protests or been around people that have, socialist and anarchist sentiment.
Organization here, and maybe
You're talking about you. I'm talking about
You
that.
don't have to name no organization in particular. Maybe she would, if you want to put it that way, she's a black, queer woman. I'm not sure, what she is, because she didn't say, and that doesn't matter. And the only thing it takes is for her to go to a protest to defeat his argument. If we want to be reductive and simple-minded like him.
Guess what?
Simple-minded son of a bitch.
Women that started Black Lives Matter, both Patrice and Alicia, are queer black women, and they are
You're
making
talking
sure.
about individuals.
I am talking
I'm talking
about.
It fucking matter. What? No, now we talking about individuals, but at first you was the bitch ass nigga that brought up large groups of people.
Your population.
Women. I am talking about.
It's a large group of people, man. It's fucking. Oh my God, I would love to get in his fucking face like I did them fucking black Hebrew Israelites. You stupid son of a bitch. He holding his mic like so fucking steady, like I know what I'm talking about. No, the fuck you don't, man. You have never been to a protest in your life.
Women that started this
If you
movement.
think gay people don't be at Black Lives Matter protests and vice versa, what are you talking about? People protest together. They say the discharge some protest and survive because they know they have common enemies. And I was gonna go over this video by this guy named John D. Rudy about what's the first gay pride riot? I always forget the name of it that happened in New York City, Stonewall. And because it was a large amount of not just like black queer people there, but they had to face off against like police brutality and traditionalism and white supremacy as well, in police brutality. So this weird shit he's doing right now, talking about there are two separate movements, and when something, and then in fact, when I was at a Detroit We'll Breathe protest at the beginning of the George Floyd stuff, a gay white dude got on the fucking mic talking about his experiences dealing with police brutality and how he understood, the struggle similarly to what black people have to deal with. So this guy, bro, what is he talking about? Like I said, this is a person who actually does not give a fuck about politics. He just cares about either making money or, being charismatic and spreading conspiracy theories, because so far nothing he's saying makes no sense.
Against white supremacy. And the reason LBG
are against white supremacists too. You remember, whether we talking about in the past in America, Klansmen and Red Guards and shit like that, I forget the name, they lynched gay people as well, and women who are too outspoken or called promiscuous. Not to mention the fact in actual Nazi Germany, they didn't just round up Jewish people, they rounded up anybody who they felt that was queer.
I'm not talking about you as an individual, but
people are aware that they have the same enemies and interests of their country not becoming a white supremacist police state hellhole. So they protest alongside us. And it's not just for self-preservation either, don't get me wrong. I'm sure it's that it's a lot of gay people that genuinely care about the struggles of other people.
the reason why the LGBT movement does not speak out against white supremacy is because they are
regularly do, man. It's literally like that would make no sense for them not to do it. Why would gay people have an interest in our country becoming a white supremacist hellhole?
Part of it.
Yes, gay people do. Queer people, I should say. It's hard to believe, no, sister. I'm shaking my head too, just like looking at all these people clapping and believing this shit. Why would gay people want fascists to take over America? So, along with us getting stripped of as our rights as, you know, being black or Latino people, Native Americans, and Jewish people and more, they will be stripped of their rights as well. And anybody who is found to be, you know, queer in any way, shape, or form will be persecuted by the state as well as colored people. So, what is he talking about? Okay.
And I love you. That's in love. That's in love. Number 4. Who's my? She was.
Anybody look at her story? Anybody?
Don't let this shit fool you. He's just being charismatic after he lied. And it's hard to believe, man. And it's like, I don't think it's, you know, black people become like this because, you know, they're ignorant. It's because people like him misinform a lot of black people into thinking that the struggle against white supremacy is just a black struggle alone, when it's many different races and lifestyles that, you know, or just simply being a woman who have a vested interest in the country not becoming a white supremacist hellhole.
Look up, I would say you have a fact, just prove myself right. Look up her story of the Black Lives Matter movement.
Go to a protest, dude. Like, I'm not trying to talk over her, because I know what she's saying. Like, yes, the two founders of the Black Lives Matter movement, the most popular social justice movement in today in 2022, and even probably back then in 2015. There is going to be people there that are gay, trans, lesbian, and like hauling along pride flags too, because they also have a vested interest in the United States not becoming a white supremacist police state.
And you will see that the 3 women that started that are feminists and 2 are queer, and they are not about the liberation of black people, it's about the
I'm glad
liberation
we
of
didn't get into feminism too much on this one.
gay people.
You bitch ass nigga face. That's why I'm looking at the camera like that. It's not because my audience, it's because of him.
I want to deal with that. I want to deal with that real quick. Go ahead. Because that is my issue with their movement. Stay with me. Stay with me.
There is, you know, issue is with the movement is because it breaks down your conspiracy theories once you actually like simply go to a protest or you listen to what this woman is telling you. Everything you saying winds up being what it is, an empty conspiracy theory.
Go back to my ancestor, Frederick Douglass. Then we gonna move on. Because one thing we gotta do, y'all, I talk about this and y'all hear me talk about this. When we talk about the black agenda, we have to stop taking time away from the black agenda to feed other people's agendas. Like,
that's so bitch made. That's the most bitch made, selfish shit ever. That's why I said these people are not leftists in any way, because that defeats the complete, you know, completely defeats the predilections of being a leftist in any way, and why these people have more in common with Nazis and white supremacists. It's because being a leftist, you're supposed to be intersectional at some point. I'm not saying you have to be an intersectional feminist, but you should entertain the ideas of intersectionality to see that certain forms of oppression can intersect with other forms of oppression. And in fact, like I said throughout this entire video, that many different groups of people have an interest in, especially the United States, not becoming a white supremacist police state, not just black people.
I want to draw a parallel, respectfully. When Frederick Douglass was fighting for the right for blacks to get the vote, Susan B. Anthony and other white feminists told Frederick Douglass that you should not let the black man get the vote until the white woman get the vote. And Frederick Douglass said the struggle of a whole...
I want to see. Well, I'm gonna waste my time probably, but even if it is true, you know, which I doubt that it is. I'm not gonna put it on screen because it'll be a real quick thing. Well, even if she was, we can talk about this. And I guess at the end, yeah, to win, she appealed to white supremacists. But here we go. We can say that today's feminists, and you like, I've been around like feminist white women, especially have a greater political analysis about how racism and sexism are perpetuated by the same people. Most modern feminists are not racist, and the ones are TERFs. But that's a story for another day. So there's a lot of crossover between TERFs and white supremacists. But point being is that just because something was one thing in the past does not mean that it's one thing today. For instance, take unions for instance. I'm a member of Teamsters 247. Unions back in the day didn't allow black people to join. But after they saw how stupid that was and how actually working class black men and working class white men have the same enemies and economic interests, black people can now join unions. And now I'm a 26-year-old African American black male that is a proud member of Teamsters 247.
whole race.
People can change their minds and learn new information. And people can also interwove with other movements to see what other people are thinking. That's the idea of especially intersectional feminism, is that they can see that racial oppression and oppression of a woman can intersect at some lines, and that a white woman technically can have the same enemies, you know, or even working class white men can have the same enemies as a black man or a black woman.
Damn thing to do with your struggle against your man.
You sound dumb as fuck, bro, because I guess we getting into the feminist part that I was begging for earlier, so you gonna sit up here and tell me that all the shit. I feel like, don't get me wrong, bro, because I'm not like a simpy person. And I still got like, you know, things I need to work on with my political conclusions, but you ain't about to sit up here and tell me like black women have it easy and have everything handed to them. Black women have it really rough, and it's a need for black feminism to fester in the black community because of people like you, man.
No, stay with me.
I'm not lying yet and making shit really overly simple-minded because like I said earlier, with the example of black people not being allowed to join unions, people can gain a greater analysis of politics and change their mind or change up their movements. Most feminists are not racist nowadays. I would say like 98% of feminists are not racist. 98% of feminists probably dated a black guy at some point or something like that, or would do it. But I guess because I'm running out of time right now, I'm trying to be done with this video by 2:15, and we get to his racist interracial dating shit later.
Cannot equate the gay struggle with the black struggle.
It's about equating. It's about seeing that they have the same enemies and vested interests of America not becoming a white supremacist police state. The same people that push legislations like that hurt black people, like you know, piling on the police, mandatory minimum sentences, pro-federal prisons, the cutting of welfare programs, are the same people who want to outlaw gay marriage, make sure that you know, that we don't have sex education classes in our schools, and that gay children are reported and thought of as mentally ill. These are the same people. It's mostly the Republican Party, and on the fringes we got like actual Nazis and white supremacists and shit. Then again, who am I kidding about some of the people like Marjorie Taylor Greene these days, huh? But that's the thing, is that the same people who want to economically debilitate black people or over-police us want to over-police and economically debilitate black people and queer people and women. And, even more like Latino people, Jewish people, they want these people to be on the back foot in America, and we got a vested interest on America not becoming, like I said, a right wing hellscape where the workers and minority people have no rights. And nobody wants a world where women don't have their own economic mobility either. That sounds terrible.
Our queen. That's our problem. Respectfully. They are not.
Bitch, I don't have no respect for you, man. Like, I guess I'm done with the video because it's probably gonna be enough screaming. But in my closing statement, that I want a lot of black people to keep in mind that just because somebody said that they are pro-black and they care about and love black people does not mean that their movement has a vested interest in making society a better place to live. Number two, that being gay or lesbian or anything like that, these people are not mentally ill and they do not pose a threat to children. As I showed in a study earlier, they are 4 times more likely, and that broke my heart reading it, more likely to be the victims of sexual assault and violent crime than non-LGBT people. 4 fucking times. And also that gay people do show up to essentially, if you want to say it like in a simpler, like layman's terms, to back African Americans when one of our people are killed by the police, because gay people and queer people, they have a vested interest in the United States, and feminists have a vested interest in the United States not becoming a white supremacist hellscape. And always keep that in mind, that the enemies of gay people, the enemies of lesbians, the enemies of trans people, the enemies of the white working class, the enemies of the black working class, the enemies of the Latino people and the Jewish people that work for a living. We all have the same enemies as white supremacists and rich capitalists and fascism in general. People like this are also our enemy and needs to be on your people to not listen to and to remember you have a vested interest in opposing people like him. And sooner or later we're gonna start going over people like Dave Chappelle. Maybe I'll talk about rap, like the shit with Boosie and Lil Nas X, maybe later on or something like that. But always remember that we have the same kind of enemies, and we got to stand together to make our country a better place to live. And don't let this idiot, this bitch right here, pushing his conspiracy theories about gay people being pedophiles or how feminism hurts black men and shit like that, when the situation is much more complicated than that, get you to stand against your own interests or against people that are there to help you too.